Yeah, what's going on, party people in the place to be? I go by the name of the BK Apologist, transmitting all the way live. New York is the city, Brooklyn is the borough. What's good? What's popping? It's Friday night. We're posted by the corner by the bodega. We're just gonna chop it up on various topics. Who knows what's gonna happen? I don't know. They don't know, and the chat doesn't know. But we're all gonna figure it out tonight. You know what I mean? So let me get the introductions out the way. So we're gonna start with my man CMB. What's good, bro?
What up? What up? What up? What up, man? How you doing, y'all?
Who are you, man? To tell us, couple of
Oh,
sentences.
I'm me.
You're you? Nice.
I'm me, baby. You don't know me, baby. It's Boogaloo. Yeah, no, it's Colin. What's up, man? CMB, the ambassador, all the way from the great state of Ohio. Welcoming you all to tonight's Bodega Talk. What's up?
Then we got right next to him the apologist in Detroit. What's going on, sir?
What's going on? I'm Chris Samuel, the apologist in Detroit. Same thing, just chilling on lockdown,
Tad.
waiting to be set free.
Tad, aren't we all? In various ways. And then, of course, we have the walking library of Alexandria himself, the man, MJ Jackson. What's going on?
What's going on, good people? Y'all can hear me, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Y'all, please forgive me. Man, just about to chop it up with these wonderful brothers, and maybe afterwards go in here and experiment on my hair. Hopefully, hopefully I won't have to join the ball club if it don't go too bad. But I'm looking forward to a wonderful conversation with all these brothers.
Amen. Godspeed to your hair, bro. Godspeed. Then next up is a young lion that's just tearing into the apologetic circle. He's all the way from Florida. It's my man Gianni. What's going on, bro?
What's up, beloved? I'm just here ready to soak up game with the big homies and do what I do. That's it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Say what's up to a couple people in the chat. We got Phil Fox. What's going on, bro? We got Carmel. We got my man Darrell all the way from Cali, originally from Brooklyn. You know what I mean? I don't know how you Cali cats do it, man. It's like you got Rona, earthquakes. It's
they got the fires in the summer.
Right. It's like I don't know.
$9 gas. Oh my goodness.
Droughts. You know what I mean? It's like I don't know.
Bless you all.
They got some good food though in Cali though. Oh man, all over the place.
You got my man SOC in the building as well. So with that, he said I'm not I know, bro. I know you BK all day. I know. I didn't mean disrespect. No disrespect, Darrell. I feel you. So, well, since we represent various parts of the country, right? So let's do a quick check-in on just the whole Rona situation. So let's start with MJ. What's going on in your neck of the woods when it comes to this pandemic?
Well, man, the governor has pretty much decided that he's going to open up the economy so that people can make some money. And some of the ground rules down here is whatever business that you have, it needs to at least be able to operate by delivery or curbside service. Totally get that. I totally understand that. That doesn't mean that I'm gonna go buy your stuff. and once again, that does not necessitate that people who have some common sense go spend their money. Somebody might do it, but it doesn't necessitate that people who have common sense go crowd places and things like that. I was just watching that interview with the mayor of Las Vegas, and it was just horrible. It's and the reason why I bring her up is the same attitude as down here. Now, our mayor is doing pretty good. Matter of fact, she's isolating herself because she may have been exposed. But you have people who want to open up the economy, but they don't want to be involved in the planning or in setting up rules for how these businesses are going to operate. They want to take their hands off of it and say, yeah, we're going to open it up, but it's all going to be on you, the business owner, of how you avoid probably potential lawsuits and potential deaths and things like that. So, we really need to be praying for our leaders. Look, I know that I make fun of President Trump a bit.
Uh-oh.
Okay?
Here we go.
But
I'm gonna get flagged. Thank you. Yeah.
I don't want him to fail. Not right now. I want him to really do good right now.
Good save.
More than anything, I'm praying for him, maybe for God to help him, because now is not the time to get stuck on stupid and start doing crazy stuff. So we'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
But that's Texas for you. It's a good old what are we, a red state? Yeah, a good old red state.
Sure.
Well, it's starting to change a little. It's not as red as it used to be, but
we getting Cali people coming over here now. Like I said, I don't mind the low taxes and stuff like that.
Of course not.
And y'all had to talk about Candace Owens and things like that. I don't lean left or right. I try to even deal with my politics based on a Christian worldview. So I'm gonna blast both sides when they mess up, and
that's the only way, big dog.
That's it. I'm gonna blast whoever, and I don't make an idol out of this country.
Right.
I sure as heck don't make an idol out of politics. So anybody can get it. It's called flipping. If you want to sanitize history, I'm gonna blast you. If you want to engage in a culture of death and immorality, I'm going to blast you. So anybody can get it. So I try to even deal with my politics based on a biblical worldview, and that's what we as Christians have to do.
And it's sad that it puts us in a weird spot, right? Because especially, like, I wish Adam was here. I definitely would like for him to speak for himself. But when we did the video, it's weird, right? Because there's certain people that think we're being sellouts, right? For the man, right? Because we actually love white people. Then you got other people that would say that we're being too militant.
Right.
So I'm like, I'm either Bryant Gumbel or Malcolm X. But I can't be both. You gotta pick one, bro. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, everybody, everybody hates Chris. It seems like everybody hates the urban apologist because, like what MJ said, anybody can get it. It doesn't matter.
Nice.
It's not just the conscious community. It's good old fashioned patriotic Americans can catch it too. Like it's you know what I mean? It's like we aim everywhere. Wherever sin is, we're gonna talk about it.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Most of these people have a tendency, bro, like to just veer off into whatever information makes them comfortable, not just dealing with people within the conscious community, even down to politics. You're going to lean towards something that makes you feel, comfortable intrinsically. Like, okay, this is where I stand, and anything on that side, I have to stand up for. And I think that's where MJ's getting at. Like, you can't really, as a man of God, you can't really pick a side, bro, because both sides, they be just doing some, you know what I mean? They just, I don't know.
Dude, Cats really had an issue with that video, bro. Like,
well, if I could jump in on that too,
sure.
Man. I heard. Actually, I read it, and I've heard him say it as well too. But Dr. Tony Evans said on multiple occasions, that when it comes to politics, Jesus doesn't ride on the back of donkeys or elephants, right? He said the kingdom of God didn't come to take sides; it came to take over. Kind of fire the way he put that, because if you ask, just like you guys were, I don't want to rehash the whole chat from the night, but you guys did a stellar job about it. But a lot of people think this party over here is in is a Christian party. That party is not.
Right.
On both sides. You know what I'm saying? So that's one of those things. It's like neither one of them. They're there for politics. They're there to get reelected. They're there to get money and live off the fat of people, and that's what it is. If we get that twisted in any way, shape, or form, yes, there are peoples that are, that are Christian that are meant to be a part of those parties, but they are not the only ones.
Right.
They're not the only voice that's being heard. There's a lot of agendas being pushed in there.
Dude, Cats came for me and Adam, man. Cats came for me on Instagram.
Brother. I called Adam maybe the day after he posted it on his channel, and I said, Adam, the Spirit of the Lord told me to go over to your channel and to head, you know how they say it, you know how they say in the church, and to head to the comment section. And what
Lord
do I
have
find?
mercy.
People who didn't even, they're not even addressing what was said in the video.
It's because, you know, not to interrupt you, big dog, but what the problem is that we have a tendency to make especially the right wing party, we making it synonymous with Christianity.
Right.
That's what's going on. So, you know, she's right wing, and that's just what happened. You know what I mean?
That is wicked. It is satanic to keep conflating the two.
Facts.
Well, let's give credit where credit's due. I mean, I don't know how it is you all at. I grew up in the black church, and in the black church, the local black liberal politicians came in on Sunday morning to get your vote.
That's it.
Pastors put them in the pulpit.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
shame on them.
Yeah,
shame on them.
Right.
I think abuse goes both ways. And so, you know, we should call them all out. The difference is, you know, in all honesty, you know, white evangelicals got money.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, that makes a huge difference in the political suasion that they have versus us. Everybody can get it, and they both parties deserve it.
Bro, he lost subscribers off that video. You know that, right?
What?
So
he lost subscribers.
I haven't even peeped it yet. I gotta watch it.
Yeah, he lost subscribers, but it's good. All growth ain't good growth, as they tell you.
Right.
Some of it's just swelling. So when I say that's wicked, I'm saying the conflation of a party with biblical with a picking and the choosing of biblical principles. Okay, so I don't think that we should conflate, because if you it's just like I blast certain pastors about this whole tithing thing. I said, look, if you're gonna tithe right. Why only accept one tithe? There were 3 different tithes. So my whole thing is, because the lady was addressing American exceptionalism, right? And this country was founded on biblical principles. So I said, wait a minute. How can you kidnap human beings and didn't say in the same breath that it was founded on biblical principles? That I almost threw up in my mouth. So that's where I'm coming from. So yeah, pick and choose, but man, look, you're inconsistent, and that's why people pick on America. That's what y'all was addressing. American exceptionalism, which is championed by the right.
And you can't, like I said, you can't get on stage and expect no one to critique you. If you don't want to critique, don't get on the stage. It's really that simple. You know what I mean? But to keep the ball rolling, so we're gonna go over to Florida. So Johnny, what's going on, man, with the Rona over by your neck of the woods?
The Bay ain't no joke over here, brother. It's no joke. We in Florida, man. It's all kinds of madness over here. Nobody listens. Everybody does what they want. Everybody want to party and turn up.
Let's go to the beach.
I mean, yeah, no, it's out of control. Jacksonville opened the beaches up. I mean, we shut down
the same day they opened it was the highest spike you guys had in infections.
Yes,
the same day.
But we don't care, fam. We over here, spring break. You know how they do. So that's just how it goes, bro. So I mean, people just being irresponsible. We still gotta, we don't have to wear the mask. Most people are wearing a mask. We have to pull up to go get the food and do all that stuff too, just like over there in Texas. But yeah, it's pretty much the same ordeal, just a little more wild over here, man.
Wow. And with that, we're gonna swing it over to Dayton, Ohio, with my man CNB.
What up?
So what's going on by you, bro? What's going on with the Rona?
A little bit more of the same, man. I was just telling these cats before we went live. I work in a physical therapy clinic, man, and some lowlife stole our hand sanitizer off from the outside, before people go sign in and all that kind of stuff. Man, I was so mad, because here's the thing. There is, everybody. If you go to the store, you normally could buy gloves, right, in your first aid section. You can normally buy hand sanitizer. You can normally buy alcohol or whatever you want to buy, right? If you go to the Walmart, you're not really gonna find it. You go to the dollar store, you're not really gonna find it, right?
Right.
Because it's in short supply. Hello, we need to get supplies too as medical workers, right? And it's in short supply for us. Now, if somebody says, "Oh, here's a bottle, I'm gonna just grab it because they got more in the back," what part of the back you talking about, G? What back is there that I missed? You know what I'm saying? Because we try to order stuff, for our clinic, and we have a higher responsibility to make sure our stuff is clean, to make sure that people don't come in and get infected when they're trying to get healed, right? And so that's my rant, man. I'm just, it's all bad. But Ohio's getting better. I got a shout out our governor Mike DeWine, and the health minister Dr. Amy Acton. She's a beast, and we're ahead of the curve. Normally Ohio is way behind on a lot of things, right? Except for maybe football, but that's about it. But that's kind of where it's at. So it's been a blessing, to be here where people have been doing right. And the leaders have been doing well, but they're trying to open stuff up on Monday, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, everybody's hurting.
Wait! You guys are opening back up Monday? You said?
But it's a slow rollout. So what they're gonna do is certain sectors. So like I said, healthcare, right? They're gonna start to allow for elective surgeries. Elective surgeries will be like your shoulder surgeries, your knee surgeries. Something you're gonna die for. You know what I'm saying? But even as it is, just being in the hospital where one nurse might touch something, say in the cafeteria at the door handle, someone else touches it, they rub up on Dr. So-and-so scrubs, and then Dr. So-and-so does surgery. Who knows what's going to happen, right? So you have to be extra careful for cross-contamination, stuff like that. So, those kinds of things matter, right? And people are thinking for themselves, and we talked about that last week where somebody dumped some gloves in the elevator or whatever it was, right? People are not discarding their PPE, personal protective equipment, correctly, and that will put other people at risk. It's no different from back in the 80s. I'm old, y'all, so forgive me. But when they say, if you see a needle in the park, don't touch it.
Right. Yeah,
say no. Go and tell somebody. Right, but when Rips was running across the street, so that's the kind of thing that we have to be careful of. And so, like, I get a little bit irritated by that. Well, a lot irritated, to be honest with you, because I put my life at risk to help other people every day. Other people put their lives at risk every day when people are being just selfish, and just being just jerks, really, to be honest with you. Then it's not cool, and it does more harm than good.
Well, amen, brother. We appreciate your service, being an essential worker, and just being there for people, and it's amazing. Peace to Dean. I know she's also within that realm. You know what I mean? Right. So she's out there in the front lines too. So much respect. You know what I mean? So
shout out to SOC as well. Yeah,
that's right. SOC too. That's right. That's right. You dudes are some brave people, man, for real. So let's swing by to Detroit. And what's going on by your spot, bro?
The governor extended us 2 more weeks out to May 15th. I suspect that we're probably going to be no earlier than June. He tweaked it a little bit. Prior, it was like stay at home unless it's urgent. Stay at home. Grocery shopping, urgent, stay at home otherwise. Now it's like, okay, you can go to parks, you can go boating, just do the social distancing thing. If you're out in public, wear a mask. Previously had to be a medical grade mask, not just be a homemade mask. Just wear a mask. And if it's not essential, stay at home. I do know that part of the reason that they want people outside is because sunlight and helps your body produce vitamin D, and vitamin D helps your immune system fight it off. It also the heat and light from outside is supposed to. Some studies say it helps kill it easier. Other studies say it's not much of a difference. But yeah, they that's part of the reason why they letting people out.
Right.
I want to talk.
MJ, don't say nothing. I already know what you're gonna say. You're gonna be messy. I already know.
Hey, yeah. I agree with the science.
What I'm not saying is that it's right or anything like that. What I am saying is there's a method to the madness, and people agree, people disagree. But yeah, here in Detroit, like I think that things are pretty kosher. I actually had another big march today them W evangelicals, man.
He said them WE.
Well, they freedom back. Yeah, so they was like you had downtown, our capital, Lansing, downtown gridlocked, and had a bunch of people down there, and so they love their freedom. So they was down there fighting for it this morning. It's their second one.
Don't tread on me.
Right.
With guns. With guns. I'm like, why you got the guns out for in the vest?
Confederate flags up there in Michigan.
What does that got to do with,
There's some backwoods communities that do the Confederate flag, but for the most part, we don't have like a bunch of Confederate flag folks up here. And ironically, the Confederate flag people that I've entered and come across love them some black people. They love meeting you.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Hey, he don't believe you at all. He's like,
in the godless North.
Wow, hey, watch your mouth, boy.
I'm just saying, that's what they said.
The godless North.
Luke Duke, Confederate type, not the General Lee Confederate type.
I got you. Oh, well, I'm telling you,
I love Dukes of Hazzard, by the way, when it came out. Love the show.
Man, a crisis will reveal people's character, like seriously.
Fast.
So, I mean, I don't think that this just happened. Of course, it didn't happen just for no reason. So
I'm not the biggest conspiracy theorist. At least I try not to be. But when you see certain things, it's kind of hard not to put on the tinfoil hat. And this is what I mean. I don't know if you guys have seen this article. It's kind of hard not to put on the tinfoil hat. You guys see that?
All coronavirus deaths in St. Louis, Missouri have been African Americans. That's wild. That's wild. That's almost unbelievable. Like
it says here, every individual whose death can be attributed to coronavirus in the city of St. Louis, Missouri, was African American, according to the director of the City of St. Louis Department of Health, Dr. Frederick Eccles.
There's not a lot of hospitals in the hood, bro.
What's their demographics also? Like are they like 99% African American or something? Like, I mean, that it would make sense. Just like if you went to somewhere like Iowa or where like they like 99% white, you would expect it to be something like that. So what's the story behind that?
Well, it says ethnicity and genetics have no influence on recovery from the virus. Professor Amadou Alpha Sal of the Institut Pasteur said in February, and black people don't have more antibodies than white people.
Yeah, I think. Go ahead.
I mean, I get that, but when you see this headline, like you want to be a little conspiratorial when you see that. It's like, really, only Africans? Like,
Tariq Nasheed done already jumped all over that.
Oh man.
No.
I mean, that's a little wild, bro.
I forgot about that dude, man.
He already putting that in the next version of
Hidden Colors.
Hidden Colors, yeah.
Hidden Colors 20. Hidden Colors 20.
That St. Louis, Missouri is only 45.3% African American. That is wild.
That is a little wild.
That makes.
I just put some in the private chat, y'all.
I peeped it.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
It's almost half and half, according to this article I just pulled up here. But the thing of it is, like, though, remember when Serena Williams had her baby, and she said she didn't feel right, and they weren't going to, they weren't really, they're kind of, poo-poo, whatever. It turns out that she was really made us think about it, and she was advocating for herself, which was a good thing because it turned out she had a blood clot in her lungs, a pulmonary embolism, which could have been fatal, right? And they were there's some, I think it was Time Magazine did an article about how especially Black folks, when they go to the hospital, we don't tend to not get the same kind of care. Right. I'll give you a case in point for myself. Now, mind you, I'm old and fat now, but when I was young and skinnier, right, I had to go to a doctor's office to go get a physical because I just took a new job, And wherever I was going, they didn't have the person was out or whatever the case was. So I went to this urgent care. The urgent care is in the hood, right? And I had, at that point in time, I was working out 4 or 5 days a week. I was doing Muay Thai. I was in pretty good shape, right? You know, I had to go there. I went to the desk. They said, okay, it's going to be about 30 minutes for you to wait for what's it called, for your physical. I said, all right, cool, I can wait 30 minutes, not a problem. So I'm waiting and I'm waiting and I'm waiting and I'm waiting, like almost like 2 hours later, and I had someplace to be, right? I'm like, yo, how long is this gonna take? They're like, oh, just a couple of minutes, no problem. Now, mind you, in the waiting area, for whatever reason, at this urgent care, they got Jerry Springer playing. They got all kind of stuff going on in the waiting area, babies hollering and all that kind of stuff. You know how it is, man. And then so, naturally, I'm getting a little bit upset because I had to wait almost 2 hours longer than what they said, right? So I go back, they take my my blood pressure, it's elevated, right? I'm mad. And the lady's like, oh my God, we gotta put you on this medication. You're not this. I was like, hold on a second. I don't have any health problems. Like literally, I don't. I said my normal numbers are this, and that, yada yada yada. I'm here for this particular job, whatever. And she looked at me like, well, how do you know that? And I was using medical terminology. I'm like, I work over here. I got a master's degree. I'm not a stupid idiot. You know what I'm saying? Like, I kind of technically outrank you, but whatever. You know what I'm saying? So 5 minutes later, I said, just take my blood pressure in 5 minutes. So of course I sat down back there. Blood pressure was back to my normal numbers. It was all good. Right? I knew enough to help protect myself and advocate for myself at that point. Right? For people that don't know enough and don't know how to advocate for themselves, sometimes to be like, oh, the doctor will be like, yeah, you're fine. And like, no, I'm not fine. This thing's hanging off. It should be hanging off here, right? And sometimes you kind of go through that. And so that may or may not be part of the reason that that's happening in places like St. Louis, in places like, I'm quite frankly, I'm concerned for Atlanta, Georgia, and other places with high population density, right? And also high Black population. Because what's going to happen when they say, all right, y'all can go spend that $1,200 now, and everybody's running to, close quarters, breathing on everybody, fighting over things, in the grocery store and touching stuff and whatever that, man, it's going to be crazy.
Wait till they open up the clubs out there.
Wait till they.
Oh my goodness!
They're gonna all start running the Sprint and KFC.
Oh, and Popeyes.
Right, that's a
right.
good reference. Hey, but straight up though, I got a book reference. Okay?
Uh-oh.
I am only about 75% finished with this book, and I bought this book 2 years ago. And the only reason I'm only 75% finished with it is because it's a hard read. Because they are chronicling the history of how our healthcare system became one of the most advanced in the world. And spoiler alert, it's because the American history of racism. They were experimenting on African Americans.
That's right.
Who were due to them all of these experiences. And the thesis of the book is that we are one of the most underserviced communities within a country in which the medical system was largely benefited from experimenting on our people. And when you do a side-by-side comparison of us and our counterparts, we have the equivalent health collectively of citizens of like a third world country. It's like how do we live in a first world country with one of the most advanced healthcare systems in the world, and a portion of its citizens has impacted it. So yeah, medical apartheid. It's a tough read, man. It's a tough read when they're talking about just taking people and peeling their skin off and pouring hot water on them, just to like pouring boiling hot water on them just to see if it'll cure some skin disease or some skin rash that they think, and how they kind of came about to learning a lot and making our healthcare system as advanced as it is. And now we don't even benefit from it.
See, we can talk about the Germans doing that, but people catch an attitude when we write books. Oh, you just need to forget about that.
That's right. Past. Yeah.
You need to forgive. Christ has reconciled this whole country. I've even heard Calvin to say that.
Yo, just chill.
Here we go. Here we
I'm
go.
not doing that tonight,
you
y'all.
don't even
nowhere,
you don't
MJ.
even-
Good night.
Not tonight. I got the energy for them boys, man.
Doug
No.
Wilson, James White, even some brothers that
Oh, he's
rock
naming
with us.
names and everything. I'm
Yeah,
getting
My
swag.
dog
I'm getting
lit
swag.
tonight.
Your
Yeah.
theology don't even allow for that. How can that come out of your
Right.
mouth?
Right.
This whole country ain't been reconciled to Christ.
Lord have mercy.
Come on now. But
So with
I
that
mean,
being said,
I'm done. Go ahead, BK.
thank you, sir. Thank you. So because of the pandemic, all these crazy things happening, the church has been forced to pivot. You know what I mean? And now we had to transition now completely into the virtual world, right? And this is a quick article talking about, churches going digital. As you see, they got the state-of-the-art binder clips holding the phone. There's another article here about sermons go digital as coronavirus intrudes on church hour. You have another one here. These people providing, we help churches do church online, right? They got an ebook for you. And then you got, 20 digital evangelism tips for churches and digital missionaries. Never heard that term before, right? So, right, digital missionaries. So my question is, you see this guy, you messy too, right? You and MJ hang out together, I see. Okay, I see that. Anyway,
Quitting the beast, man.
So like, first of all, how is your perspective ministries dealing with the transition, and what are the good things and maybe even bad things about what's happening right now with the virtual electronic missionary ministry stuff? Anyone?
I'll go.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, I'll go real quick. Like I'm in unique because I'm a minority that goes to a majority church. So I go to we have men's get together where they want to go to the gun range. I don't go because I ain't. That's what they do. They like, hey, we're all getting together, going to gun range. We're gonna pray afterwards, whatever. Anyway, so that's this. It's a weird dynamic, and so I lament. I'm actually in a stage of lament over it because I feel like the privilege that we live in reveals that our commitment to each other as a community is largely a commitment of convenience. So it's a lot of families. Like we probably got about 200-300 members at our church, right? So that's probably 30 families, something like that, 25 families, depending on the number of members of the family. But yeah, it's like we'll have a watch party. Like basically the leadership, the elders and pastors, they'll put together videos of different members at home leading a worship song, praying, whatever. They'll put it all together, put it in a video, they post it on YouTube, and it's like they don't even encourage us to come together to stream it together. So and then you can go on YouTube and look at the numbers and think like, oh, if it's only had 30 or 40, the streaming numbers are low. So I'm like, well, how many people are actually watching it? What are we doing as far as looking out for one another? So like for me, I'm grateful that we have the means because, to me, since we're going to be quarantined, it's nice to have the means to be able to come together. But as a person who participates in like a middle class evangelical community, it's heartbreaking. It's frustrating because I feel like they don't get it. They don't have that pressure of life pushing them together. So they are just completely content isolating themselves and living in their own little kingdoms and going in their swimming pools in their backyard and everything is all good. So
wow. That's so how about you, CMB?
Man, we've been doing pretty okay. We could do better, I think. But some of the same things. But my church is I think we got about 2 or 3 white folks that come to church. out of majority black church, so it's all good, in that sense. And so the needs are different. Not everybody has unlimited use of internet access. You know what I'm saying? So that curbs some participation at sometimes. You've been into our Bible study as well on Thursdays, and you've been able to participate with that, and so we get a decent turnout. Some days are better than others, and what I found out is that and I'm not taking a shot at anybody from my church. Okay, I'm just saying that people are going to do what they're going to do, whether it's gathering physically or virtually. People are going to do what they're going to do. If people weren't going to go out of their way to come to Bible study or prayer, corporate prayer, and gather, they're not going to do it virtually if they're at home. Anyway, I've noticed that. It's the same ones typically that are in Bible study and so forth that are there on those nights. Now, when it comes to the sermons, right? That's a little bit different. We've had encouragement from other churches, larger churches. My church is pretty small. And so, we've had encouragement from larger churches. We've streamed together. We've been invited to join other churches when they're doing things for larger events and so forth, like Resurrection Sunday being one of them. So that was cool. We would, fellowship with the churches anyway. So that's good. The problem though is if the people that I think might have been not as hungry beforehand, some of them are okay. When it was a lot of uncertainty, more people were involved. When things were okay and, I'm gonna get that 1,200, okay, then a lot of people, not everybody, and again, I'm not talking about my church in particular, but some folks don't need Jesus as long as the bills are paid. Once the bills get a little high or there's crisis, Big Mom and them sick, oh Lord, I got to be in church, I got to pray, I'm trying to get closer to God and all this, and we see that, and it's kind of heartbreaking, but that is part and parcel of living in this society. As a whole, and God we trust is on the money and not on our hearts.
Wow. MJ, your thoughts?
I agree with so much of what our brother said. I work at a really good job. I work for General Motors, and I tell people all the time that I didn't want to come to this job and get handicapped. And what I mean by that is to make this job my God. You know what I'm saying? We all should be ready to go to work and things like that. But there comes a time when you don't have any control over things. You just don't. We don't have any control over what's going on at all. So we, as a Christian, I understand that you do what you can do, and you really trust God. I mean, you just try to trust him. But you hear people going, hear about people committing suicide and things like that, and domestic violence is on the rise. Child abuse is going on, partially because those folks at the job can't get to their work wives and things like that. You had a side piece at
Right.
work, and you got to deal with who you made a covenant with before God. Once again, a crisis reveals your true character. It is revealed in the crisis. So, man, it's just I'm praying for our country. I'm praying for our president, because I think he's getting a chance to realize that this is, not just anybody can do this job. It's a real job, and it takes critical thinking and planning, and there's going to be an accountability factor. When you the head man in charge, the buck stops with you.
Yep.
So a lot of people are looking to him. So yeah, even if you don't agree with him personally, I think he's one of the funniest people in America. Okay, I get a kick. I could talk to him in person. President Trump is extremely funny to me, but now is not the time to be joking and playing games, and it's really serious. So I'm praying for our country. I'm praying for families. I'm praying for people who don't know Jesus. But as far as my church, I'm praying for my pastor. I'm praying for my pastor because I can only imagine what it's like to lead. I'm praying for Dr. Mason. I'm praying for all of the pastors that I know. I can only imagine what it's like to lead. And see, that's another thing. Everybody want to chase after the pulpit because they want to preach, right?
Right.
But there's more to it. It's more to it than just preaching.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
It's more to pastoring than just preaching. So I'm praying for all of our leaders.
That's the easiest part of leading is Sunday getting up there and preaching. Mm-hmm. It's once you leave that pulpit, that's when the job really begins. So for me, I've been a huge advocate in my church for us to increase our digital footprint. A lot of us, we run around the internet, and it's funny. I always said that this urban apologetic thing was my spiritual side hustle. Because I'm very much into my church, and me and my wife, we lead a small group that meets every other week, and we counsel people, and Bible studies and stuff like that. But I saw that as disciples of Christ, you got to be where the people are, and the people are online. So it's like we need to get over here, and it was very hard to try to drag them in, but now we have no other recourse, So it's just funny to me just watching, now we have Zoom midweeks. And the first time we had a midweek, like more than half the people weren't there because they don't have a clue what Zoom is. They've never had to use it before, but the learning curve is being, flattened in a sense, and people are more engaging. We had a YouTube channel. It was never used, but thank God we had one. So now we're able to like configure different like services, and we premiere the videos on Sunday. So we have to chat box, So it kind of gives some semblance of fellowship while we're watching, So now, of course, none of this takes away from the actual organic phenomenon of meeting together, right? And it should never do. But because we're living in the swipe right generation, right? It's if it doesn't come up your timeline, it doesn't exist for people. So we got to make sure that when they're scrolling, they see the gospel as they scroll through that timeline, so that they will make a decision to come check you guys out. So I've been really happy about it. Now, of course, people are struggling because they miss that physicality of being together as a body of believers. Luckily for me, I'm with you knuckleheads all the time, so I don't feel that as much. You know what I mean? Because I'm constantly out here teaching and debating and watching, Johnny smack around cats left and right. We'll get to that later. We'll definitely gonna get to that later. But I know for a lot of members that's not their world. Right. It's like people still got Hotmail email addresses. You know what I mean? It's like, so but Christians are resilient and they adapt. Right. And I think this is great, so that once we go back to some sense of normalcy, I hope that we retain our digital footprint and we still use this resource that God has given us to proclaim the gospel in a digital way. So that's my 14 cents. So Gianni, how you feel about the church being online?
There was a quote that I've heard. I can't remember where I heard it from, but it goes, the strong are not always the ones that survive, it's the ones that adapt. And I feel we are in a position right now we're watching something else unfold amongst delivering the good message. You feel what I'm saying? So this is extremely necessary because, like you said, this is where everyone is at now, simultaneously speaking. Everyone's on the phone or everyone's paying attention to a screen. So this is just what's going on now. So I'm just prayed up for the elders and everyone involved in ministry and those that are dealing with these transitions, because a part of me feels like there's going to be a new norm, and I really feel this might last a good little minute. Like, I'm not even trying to be a pessimistic, have a pessimistic mentality, but I really feel this is going to last a good little minute. So we going to just have to adapt and become strong in that form.
Nah, I feel you. We're gonna stay on Johnny for a minute because the way I met him, right? He was in the woke Christian and the conscious community Facebook group. In fact, let me put that right there in the chat if you guys want to join. And what I saw, what he would do, and this is when you was able to go live on Facebook and add one more person. right? So you and that person could talk. They took that feature away, but he was doing that. And I just love the way he presented the gospel because it was so like you could tell that he's read a book or two, but you could tell that he's been outside. If you know what I mean, he's been outside a little bit, right? And it was just that a great balance, you know. And I feel like when I think of urban apologetics, I actually do think of people like Gianni. It's like he's somebody who can 100% relate with the block, but has decided not to live like the block lives. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's super important. And I was very, very impressed with him. And we just started talking on the phone and getting to know each other's lives. And recently, he's been quite a tear on the woke Christian and conscious group. And it's been a joy watching him get busy. And I mean, just explain how, like, what is it that you're doing that's causing so much problems in that group?
What it is that I always tell people I was raised around pimps and gypsies, bro. So what this is just me keeping it 100 with you guys, man. What it is that whenever you approach individuals who have an agenda to be harmful instead of helpful, it's easy for me to point that out. See, back in the day, you would know who was shiesty and who was trying to play you or whatever the case may be. That's just another level of discernment. You know, that always felt like that was a part of God speaking to me when I wasn't seeking for him. So this is another form of it being utilized. A lot of these people that come into this chat room, they come in to try to destroy what we deem to be truth. So what I do is psychologically combat it with the same, not necessarily rhetoric, but the same approach that they're doing to us. So and I always repeat this to BK, I tell them, since they feel as if Yahushua in the Bible isn't the truth or isn't reality or isn't real, so they need to sit down and tell us what is the alternative then. And I feel as if these cats have never been asked that question. And to me, I feel like I'm doing something normal, because if you coming at me, I'm gonna ask you questions like, yeah, but are you real though? I need to know how thorough you are. So I guess as if these cats have never been interacted in that format. It's like they don't even know how to retaliate when I ask those type of questions.
No, I definitely feel like you've exposed a lot of people because of that. Because most people in general live within their own little echo chambers.
That's right.
You know, and they have their little 10 to 15 talking points that they bounce off one another, and they feel great about themselves, right? And there's a lot of Facebook groups where you can do that, you know,
right,
until you come to this particular Facebook group, and we're gonna ask questions.
That's right.
And it's real simple. It's like, but they spaz just because you asked them, what's your worldview? I mean, there's been people that said, I don't have a worldview. What you mean you don't have a worldview?
They had one prior before an interaction with one of us. They had one. They had one though. You know what I'm saying? I don't mean to turn up.
Turn up.
This is my element, and this is what I'm trying to tell y'all is that, you know, they start off, let's say they start off in Kemet. You expose Kemet for what it was, Kemet spirituality, excuse me. You expose it for what it was, and then they have to change it up, and they have to find something else in order to totally neglect what we're delivering. So that's the problem I have. It's like they're not seeking truth, they're seeking comfort, and it's being exposed. And that's why I put names up, and this is why, you know, I do the screenshots. We need to see this. We have to see this. This is ridiculous. Are you here to build? What are you here for? What is your agenda? What is your objective?
Straight bully cat. He makes cats tuck their worldview in when he shows up.
Got to.
Look.
Yeah, the hashtag unity or eulogies kills me every time.
You had one joker talking about his worldview is love. All he ever does is insult people, make jokes.
That's right.
I'm like, even if you thought that us Christians were just deceived and we were wrong, how you gonna say you do love if you coming in antagonizing people?
Right.
And then when Gianni raised up on you, you crying. Where the moderators at?
Right. And I'm level 1, man. I'm level 1. I'm sitting back and I'm being quiet because I'm listening to the big bros speak. I'm level 1, bro. They can't even get past me. They got problems trying to meet with one of y'all. So like, they just got to get it together, man. You gotta clarify your position, and then we just dismantle your position. Because
but I think what you're doing is such a great help for all Christians. Because a lot of times we all think that it's defense all the time for the Christian. It's like, no, there's offense too. It's like if someone makes the claim, the onus is on the person who made said claim.
Right.
And I think Christians always forget, because we're always so, I got to defend the gospel, and amen to that. But if they say something, they got to defend their worldview too. It's not just you that got to do all the heavy lifting. So do they. So
that makes the claim bears the burden of proof.
There you go.
Right on.
That's
You cannot let these people presume atheism or agnosticism, because those are both claims to knowledge. Like we got one sister in there who's always posted. And she will avoid answering, hey, can you tell us if the universe had a beginning? Something as simple as that. Won't touch it. These people,
I know which sister you're talking about.
I think I remember her name right now. I've been trying to build a rapport with her.
You have, and I'll give you credit.
She's good people. I've had like good interactions before.
Hey,
I've had interactions before. I try to build, man. It's not always.
God got to touch me on a certain time of the day, because right now, it's just like Gianni said. Sometimes we are prying them fingers. What does Romans 1 say? They're suppressing the truth in the So a lot of times, what Gianni or myself will do, we'll just give arguments to defeat their defeaters.
Right.
We'll give arguments to defeat their defeaters, or just remove their hands.
Messy.
No
names, man.
But real quick, and just to reiterate the objective that we have, I also do a lot of shout outs to people who I've become cordial with that are not in the same worldview as I. So those are the ones that don't get a lot of likes or don't get a lot of attention, because I'm still here to represent people who are genuine. You know what I mean? So it's not like I'm out here just coming after cats. No, I'm coming after those that I can see they're being sneaky. And I see the trickery, bro. So I just go in. That's it.
Right. Before we continue, I want to say a special shout out to my man who just entered the bodega. We got my man, Servant of Christ. What's going on, sir?
Yo, what's going on, everybody? You guys look like you chopping it up pretty good.
Oh man, it just got hot. It just got hot just now, bro.
I'm sorry, I came in a little late. I was in a class, so.
Bro, I think the thing that killed me was I was talking to another individual who shall remain nameless. And I'm like, all right, so what's your primary source for this? He said, my heart.
Oh, Lord have mercy. Oh, Lord.
He said, my heart. Let a Christian say that.
They don't use the same scrutiny on themselves. They
double
don't.
Standard, bro.
Yeah, it's heavy double standard,
bro. I know who you're talking about, and I'm not gonna say names.
Thank you.
But I decided to go ahead and go to his actual page, and these dudes are New Agers.
Yeah.
Yes, very much so. Very much so. Yes.
They are not Kemetic. What they espouse has nothing to do with Africa or indigenous Africa. These folks are dressing New Age and kente cloth or Kemetic garb, but they are New Agers. That's nothing but New Age.
Gumbo theology. Theology.
Mm-hmm.
We just throw everything in that joint.
So once again, who been brainwashed by the white man?
That's them lodges.
Come on now.
That's them lodges right there. Yeah. Yeah, we gonna get in that too,
bro. And Gianni, he be like, "Yo, let's have a conversation. Like, forget the texting. Let's talk." Oh, you just want? I'm like, really?
It's wild, man.
Cats be having like the ill, super Kemetic name, like 5 different names. The avatar. They got Amin Ra, Keppel Ra. I'm like, all right, Nasu, let's talk.
Right.
Crickets.
Well, you got to remember, man. These cats weren't raised the way we were raised, man. If you're talking smack on a basketball court, you had to go outside. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? If you're talking smack in gym class, you had to be somebody outside. You know, and it was going down. You know, and they never had to do that because you get suspended for threatening. You know what I'm saying?
Show and prove, man.
So you can say whatever you want to say, but as soon as someone pulls your cards, man, it's like, oh, I'm gonna sue you. Nah, no. We're gonna throw some hands. We're gonna do something. You know, and people weren't raised like that, man.
This
They
the
don't
world,
have
man.
to defend themselves.
In my hood, if you came and said, "Yo, I spit," you got to rap right then and there,
right, on the spot.
Right.
So, oh, word, let me hear 16. Boom. And if you don't, you get clowned. You should never said nothing.
Right.
It's like that's the cloth I'm cut from. It's like
I got this pen and paper.
That's fine too. They write something. I'll take that too.
Yeah.
You claim that you do something, let me see it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's like, but it's not. Again, it's just not fair. It's not. It's the same standard that they expect us to reach. They don't have to at all.
Right.
Hey, and they say if you're getting all your information from white folks, you can't use that. I said, but wait a minute. Y'all can.
Oh man.
Y'all can use Ben Yohanan.
Don't do that. And MJ on one tonight, boy.
And y'all can use John Herod Clark. Y'all can use Ashar Kwesi and everything that they regurgitate.
That's white scholars.
I'm gonna use that word. Everything that they regurgitate is from 18th and 19th century white scholars.
Unaccredited ones.
Non-scholars. Right. Pseudo scholars. Yeah.
Pseudo. Just making stuff up off of the dome. I got Gerald Mann, a couple of his books, one book full of lectures, and right at the beginning of the book, he says, now what I'm saying is true and can be backed up by sources, but I don't have that right now. Something to that effect.
Man.
Burn the book.
Everybody could do that at once. That's not fair.
It's over. Right.
That's crazy. It's like
it's heavy hate. It's heavy hate, bro. It's rebellion. It's intrinsic rebellion. It's something that we always fight against. They're just they're at an extreme level in a different department psychologically. Like it's just rebellion, G. That's all that is. They'll pick anything but Jesus. They'll pick the aliens. They'll pick Anunnaki. Talk to green aliens with Malachi York, and then
the aliens are the Anunnaki, right? According to Zachariah Sitchin, right?
Oh
right.
My God. Yeah. You are not. Gianni. You are not lying.
Come on, man. They'll pick anything. Give me anything.
Once again, like Alfredo said earlier, right? He said, as Christians, we don't have to answer all the questions.
Nah.
I had one dude trying to grill me. So you believe the creation story? You believe the story about Noah and all that, blah, blah, blah. I said, yeah. So I said, but let me ask you a question. I asked him the same question that he asked me. And you know what he said? He said, now, this might be too deep for you.
Yo, but, right there. Right now.
Yeah.
Right now. Yo, my bad, Jay.
I already knew where he was coming from.
See,
said, I believe we came from extraterrestrials.
See, fam, look, and this is what I mean.
Colin funny boy.
This is the madness.
I bust out laughing in his face just like that. I'm sorry. But it was like that laugh that Charlie Murphy did on David Chappelle when Prince was talking about he could hoop.
Right.
He told me that. I just bust out laughing. I'm sorry, bro.
Yo, what be killing me too is the atheist.
Don't do that.
Who wants to talk about the grandeur of all these Kemetic temples?
Don't do that.
The atheists.
The beautiful temples.
The beautiful temples of Ptah and this, but you don't believe in any of this. Right? Or right. What kind of atheist are you? You're a conditional atheist? Like what I don't understand. Like
another situation we see is that these people, whenever you like MJ just did, and the way the dude responded back, the X-Files, the X-Files,
I had to do it at least one time. I had to do it one time.
Yo, every time they post, you should just drop that in the chat somehow, bro.
Just yeah, okay, no problem. I'll drop
There
it.
needs to be an audio for that,
That was great.
man.
That was great.
Oh man.
But they think it's not deep enough, you know. And whenever you study things like what Michael Heiser always presents, you see it's rich in what we call, just deep material within biblical texts. It's there, but they look at the Bible in black and white, and they look at it heaven, hell, and they just have like a little dualistic thing going on to where there's a lot going on in the scripture. If you want to be entertained, you can be entertained as well, but they think they too deep sometimes. You're not deep, you're just confused. And you're compiling information, bro. That's just
listen, man. And I gotta be honest, and I was telling MJ this earlier today. I was texting him. The issue I have, and I do take a little bit of offense, is they still act as if we don't read.
That part.
Right
there.
That really bothers me. Like at this point, you've been in the group for a while. You already know what it is. And then they post stuff like, I got you, like today.
Nah.
Say any names. The Hypatia. They dropped Hypatia. I'm like, me and Adam Ben did that already. Like, here's the video. Did he want to watch the video?
Hold on.
Yeah.
When that dropped, I was like, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And there's the video. I was like, which one of us is gonna hit him with it first?
Oh man.
See, and then like, oh, I don't see it. I'm like, here's the mark. I don't what mark? Like, you don't know what timestamps are? Like, are we really?
They were not watching the video.
They were not watching the video.
No.
Because they're shocked that we know who. Like, come on.
Exactly. It's shock. It's shock, bro. That's exactly what that is.
Wow, the bad part is, the bad part is about that, fellas. A lot of these people don't know that many of us that are Christians now were where they were like 10, 15, 20 years ago.
Nice.
You know what I'm saying? This is new to you. It's old to me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I read the two Babylons and all that. Yeah.
Man, listen.
Read all the conspiracy stuff. Illuminati 66, read all them joints. Right? Yeah.
No, when Biggie and Pac were still beefing. Like, what are you talking about? This is old hat, man. It's old news, bro.
And I get it the first couple of times, but you consistently say, like, oh, you don't know this. It's like, really? You really don't think we know this? And then one of us come and hit them, bomb. It's like, and then I get hit with the goodbye smiley face, and they leave the thread.
See, they're not here for truth, family. They're just not. Them type of people, they're not just here for truth. That's just the bottom line.
I don't have a worldview. Like, what do you mean you don't have a worldview?
Why you
throwing anything against the wall, hoping that it sticks.
Right. I don't believe in anything.
Even that statement is a worldview.
Right. It's self-refuting. That's why, and that's what C was talking. Like, that's what C sees, that there's one individual who shall remain nameless. Right? He's the one that said, "I don't got a worldview," but he keeps showing his perspective all the time. So every time he posts, I put hypocrite.
That's right.
Person none else, I just put the word hypocrite.
And he's not exaggerating, man. He's not exaggerating. I was scrolling. I was like, hypocrite. I'm like, what is he doing? And I started cracking up.
It's okay to be abrasive, y'all. It's okay.
And what they have to realize here is anytime you open your mouth to utter something about God, you have a worldview and you're religious because you put, yes, and they hate when you call them religious. No, you're not just spiritual, you're religious. You're talking religion.
Right.
Okay. Even if you say that there is no God, you've made a claim about religion, and you've made a claim about ultimate reality. So yes, you are putting a worldview out there. You have made a metaphysical claim just by talking about God. You're engaging in metaphysics.
Right.
There's one dude, he quotes Nietzsche, right? Oh, God is dead. Yeah, keep reading that part.
Oh Lord.
Keep reading about when he says God is dead and how without God there's a void that no one can fill. How about that part?
Son,
you read that part, right? Come on, man.
And people just like slogan theology. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
They
yes.
want to just
Yes, say
throw out
that.
a
Say
phrase.
that.
You know what I'm
Say
saying?
that.
It's like, you know, and that somehow makes it true. It's just like, no, that makes it popular. You know, like,
Right. That's the echo chambers.
We need receipts. You know what I'm saying? Let's talk about this.
So, and that's why they mad, because we don't play along, right? They're supposed to say their deep echo chamber talking point, and we're supposed to be stumped. That's the game.
yeah.
Well, but that's how when we watch this though. But that's how a lot of them got caught up in it, because it's like, yo, this was new to you. You know, you never heard that. You couldn't answer that question. So now you get sucked into here. Let me show you what's up. Let me teach you the ways and show you where they lying to you and all this stuff. And then bring up the worst possible examples of, you know, preachers gone rogue. You know what I'm saying? And this preacher over here did that. This priest did that thing. That guy did that thing. And they're like, oh, Christianity is horrible. Right? Wait a minute. Hold on now. Can you show me anywhere in the scripture where Jesus says, yes, you should rape children? Where Jesus says, yes, you should own slaves? Where Jesus says, yes, you should do these things? And if you can't do that, right, then that does not comport with Christian doctrine. If that does not comport with Christian doctrine, that means that you have gone rogue. And now you can tell that guy's not acting like a Christian. So maybe I shouldn't follow that. You know?
Like the whole Hypatia situation, right? It's like we owed up to the fact that there's a bunch of dudes that said they were Christians that formed a mob and killed Hypatia. We broke that down.
Right.
But we broke that down to show you that just because someone does something in the name of Christ doesn't make it Christianity.
Facts.
And that went over everyone's head.
Well, but that's when you start bringing examples like, you know, everybody knows what identity theft is, right?
Right.
Okay? Someone writes a check, and I write a check that says apologist in Detroit, but it's not his signature. Oh, wait a minute. That doesn't look like what apologist in Detroit would do. You know, that's not something that he would do. I could assume his identity, right? But as soon as people who actually know apologist in Detroit is like, nah, that's not him. He wouldn't root for Ohio State. He wouldn't root for Florida State. He wouldn't. That's horrible, right? If he's like robbing a bank, he's like OH, then you know, wait a minute, we gotta stop this. That's not him, right? Immediately, you know what's up, you know. And I think that's kind of one of those things that for a lot of people, you know, that the ignorance of church-going Christians as a whole in America it needs to stop. We need to do better as preachers, as teachers, as leaders, you know, to make sure that folks know the basics. That's one. And then two, if and when these things pop up, right, that we can be able to nip it in the bud. Christianity doesn't teach that. So what are you talking about?
Right.
You know, you can bring that. It's not going to be a hard thing to deal with and do apologetics that way.
And also, I think as believers, we need to learn. And this is why they don't share their worldview, because once they share their worldview, we can hold them accountable for their worldview.
Yeah.
Right? So if you claim to be an atheist and you make a truth claim, or if you say this is evil, what the Christians did was evil, I'm like, well, how? What makes this evil as opposed to something you just don't like?
Right.
I go right to their worldview, because according to you, we're just time and chance. That's all humans are. We're just bags of chemicals fizzing. So why should I listen to another bag of chemicals fizzing? I really shouldn't, because we're just chemical fizzing. Oh, they hate that. They hate that.
Yeah.
Oh, but I know, you know, this one guy was like, oh, but, you know, I know where I came from. I came from my parents. They're great. And where they came from, my parents. It's like, okay, you see where it's going, right? Eventually you're going to run out of humans. So he's like, then, you know what he says? Oh, the Anunnaki gene splicing.
I seen that one, fam.
Wow.
I seen that one. I remember that one.
Hold on.
Get him. Hey, go ahead and get him, big dog.
But you know what? I'll do him another one. I said, who made them?
Yeah.
Who made them?
Infinite regression.
Who made
infinite regress?
Off of Prometheus. They believe in Prometheus.
Exactly.
I said, so who made them? So we can take this thing as far back as you want to, but logic necessitates that contingent beings cannot just pop into existence on their own.
Yes, they do. If you go by the Memphite theology, absolutely they do, sir.
And that's why
They come from the waters of Noon. Don't you read, bro?
Oh,
Hey, bro.
Lord.
Hey, and that's why that's absurd too.
Somebody got a TV on? Or
it's
Who
on the
watching
background here.
Golden
Hold on,
Girls, man? Who watching Golden Girls?
Yeah, that's my wife.
well,
I'm sorry. I'll mute my mic. That's my
Oh,
wife.
good.
I'm sorry. I'll mute the mic.
Yo, I'm like the sacred mound of Nun. I'm like, and where did that come from?
See, they don't have a realization that Yahweh is the most unique package of any type of deity you can compare it to. You know what I mean? So they don't understand how it works. That's why it frustrates me for them to come into the chats, come into the group, and try to teach us about what we've been trying to learn for years amongst years. You know what I mean? Just for them to try to debunk it. Like, you have no clue how this even works. So that's just what frustrates me.
You have a guy named Thoth, and part of his job is to dictate when the gods are born and when they die.
The gods are dead, B.
Like, what's
Your gods
that?
are done, B.
Hey, Alfredo,
Yes,
you've read the Bible amongst the myths, right?
Yes.
Okay, when we get a chance, maybe in a few weeks or so, let's do a book review on that.
Nice.
Because that book talks about the very issue that we laying on the table right now.
Right.
It talks about how magic was used to manipulate these deities that surrounded Israel. It was used to manipulate them.
Right.
How sex cults, you know, they have sex in the temple, and that's supposed to make the god send rain or whatever for
have sex with the planet so he
Yeah,
can
for
inseminate the
fertility.
crops.
Kind of like yoga.
Isn't that the dumbest thing that you ever heard? And you hear Browder, you can't have no male deity without no female deity. Well, no, duh, but that's how you know that this thing was brought about by heathens.
That's right.
If you think that God has to create or rain comes, that's why you see the God of the Bible strike so many places with famine. To demonstrate a point, and that's why he straight up pimped the gods of Egypt during the Exodus.
Yeah.
And I think you did something on that, right, Alfredo?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I did a midweek service on that. Yeah.
He pimped him. He pimped Mayat. And I hate to say pimped, but he threw Egypt into chaos. Look, the Bible is interacting with the belief systems of these other places,
and it's very polemic.
That's the beauty of it.
And what's great too, actually, I saw Vocab talk a little bit about it. There's satire in the Bible as well, right? And a perfect example, of course, is the battle of the prophets of Baal,
Elijah and
right?
Yeah.
Because here's the thing: like, he's making fun of Baal, but he's making fun of Baal with the actual theology. He's not just making stuff up. Well, maybe he's away, maybe he's asleep, because they have a cycle. Baal has a cycle when he comes up and he comes down.
Right.
So he's not just saying stuff; he's using their theology against them. Well, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. You see that the Bible's replete with stuff like that.
Yeah, one of the biggest when we talk about the uniqueness of the Christian worldview, you know, particularly in the Old Testament with Judaism, is anthropology, and in all of these other worldviews, human beings were at the bottom of the totem.
Right.
Everything else, all of nature was above it, and they had to worship and serve nature in hopes that nature would respond and give them what they needed, whether that be fertility, whether that be more crops, whether that be to win a war versus their neighbor. Christianity flips that upside down. You know, Yahweh says that no, all of these things are made for you. You are the ruler. You are to be fruitful, multiply, subdue, and rule. All of these things that in the Genesis account, you know, these were the gods of the Egyptians, the birds, the sky, the moon, the trees, the fish. You can literally go and look up the Egyptian gods. See, all of these things are within the category of Egyptian gods. And here, God, Yahweh, is saying, no, humankind, you guys are the purpose of creation. And flip that upside down. So yeah, that's a big significant piece to carry to watch and carry throughout the rest of Scripture. And if you really pay close attention, not only does he flip it, but he makes human flourishing kind of a principle. You know, this whole this garden that Adam and Eve is in is a temple, and this garden represents it represents everything they need. There's fresh water there. There's wealth. There's onyx and there's gold. You know, there's fruit. If you look into ancient Near Eastern culture, what you realize is these priests were supposed to call people back to Yahweh through presenting this human flourishing environment, and that was continued in Israel. So yeah, that's a big piece of the polemical aspects of the Old Testament that often gets missed, because we often think of through our traditions, or we think through like we don't interact with the Bible on a more robust level. We interact with it through our traditions that we adopt or that we participate in.
Gotcha.
Cool. So of course we got Adam Coleman, aka Super Late. What up, Super Late?
What's going on, bro? What's happening with you, man?
Well, I'm glad you're here because you know what I've said to you privately, I need to say publicly now. So you know, after tonight, I'm gonna have to distance myself from Adam Coleman because of his black radicalism. It's gonna hurt my brand.
Militant.
He's just too militant.
Oh, man.
You know what I mean?
I'm the nice guy, man. I'm the nice guy. You know, I'm pro everybody. You're pro everybody, man. You know, it's wild. It's just I'm just hopping into the conversation, so I don't want to derail it. You know what I'm saying? But it's just, you know, some people have a problem with folks being consistent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it steps on their tone.
Come on.
You know, and so that's my thing, man.
Again.
I mean, it's true. You know what I'm saying? I mean, my goal is to be consistent. You know, and I think that. He said this drip is scary. It's wild, man. I mean, it's easy to you know, cheerlead, you know, when you know, the criticism is going another direction than your own. But you know, when it's a situation where, you know, that preacher is stepping on those toes, you know what I'm saying? I mean, you know, that's when you gotta, I mean, that's part of being a disciple, man. You got to take it as it is. You know what I'm saying? It just is what it is.
What them preachers say? If you can't say amen, say ouch.
Say ouch. There you go. That's what it is. Yeah,
so yeah, man. So I was just talking about, you know, earlier on, you know, you wasn't here because you were super late. You know, we were talking about, you know, our little video we did this Monday, and the backlash.
Yeah, man, the backlash was real. That's the first time I released a video and lost more subscribers than I gained. So that's just the reality of it. I mean, it was, you know, thankfully it wasn't like a, you know, huge amount, which is cool. You know, it is what it is. But, you know, it's just one. I mean, I'm not sure what y'all, you know, tackled already, but I mean, the reality is, like we talked about on the show, you know, we deal with Hebrew Israelites all the time. We deal with Comedics all the time, Moors all the time, specifically in regard to, you know, their identity claims, different forms of idolatry and so forth. And, you know, a lot of folks, you know, on my page, they don't have a problem with that. You know, it's all well and good. But then when I take that same lens, you know, and I'm recognizing, like, look, you know, no matter who you are, if you take a feature of who you are and make it the foundation of who you are, as opposed to what the Bible prescribes as being the foundation of our identity, then inevitably you're going to go astray. I'm saying, in regard to idolatry, pride, all forms of, you know, just immorality and so forth. And so anyway, when I take that same lens that I apply to the Hebrew Israelites and start applying it to white culture, you know what I'm saying, and super patriotism and whatever it may be, the reality is we're all sinful. We're all broken, and you can have identity-based idolatry going on in the white community the same way that I address it in the black community. And there are times when it's appropriate to speak on that, because ultimately I believe that the foundation of who we are is that we're made in the Imago Dei, Genesis 1:26-27. And then we see that covenantally we're God's children. And that's kind of reiterated in the new covenant, you know. So I try to keep, you know, I keep it, you know, 50-50. You know what I'm saying? With whoever I'm dealing with, when I see that kind of idolatry, I mean, it's true ID. I mean, I don't know what people expect they're going to get from my channel. I mean, this. I mean, when I say the real you Imago Dei, that's what true ID means. Like, I really mean that.
Bro,
so
you know, which way
it cuts,
people don't usually walk their words. People are accustomed to that.
Yeah.
Used to people keeping that same energy. So when you do it, it's like, clutch my pearls time. You know what I mean? It's like,
well, and and the thing is too, it's you can't squeeze a whole journey into one video. I mean, I guess one thing I wish I could have covered in our video is that, like, what I'm talking about when I talk about those kind of things, I'm really in part speaking about my own journey. You know what I'm saying? Because as I'm coming in contact with history, I'm like, dang, there really is slavery going on in West Africa. There really is some ill things that we see in our heritage. It's not the case that everybody was walking around with, bags of gold, kings and queens, what I'm saying, on the West, in Western Africa. And it's like, what, if I'm going to base my identity on Africanness, then I'm going to fall short. And so I had to go through the process of saying, no, if I can't talk about true ID and not allow God to work on me in that area and make sure that I'm, grounded in Christ. I'm saying I'm grounded in the Word. And then all those other things, I'm not saying they're insignificant at all. And I said that during our talk. I mean, those aspects of who I am and ethnicity, national, one's nation, and all that kind of stuff. Those things are all important. Right. It's just that they're not the foundation. And so I'm speaking from personal experience. This is something God dealt with me on.
Fair and balanced, bro. You're too fair and balanced. You got to pick a side. You're either Malcolm X or you're Brian Gumbo. That's all people hear. That's all
Brian
Gumbo here, bro.
Dang, bro. Brian Gumbo. You had to get Brian like that.
You're either a florist or you're a Black Panther. Like that's it.
Right.
That's right.
I'm gonna put it to you like this, because I just saw what you just put up there by many vids. Is that would be the easiest thing to do, is to sit there and start making money off of talking points.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I could start making some money right now if I just start blasting thugs and talking about how wonderful our past was, and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yes, slavery wasn't so bad.
It wasn't so bad.
Right.
You got one brother up there. Well, I ain't gonna say brother. One brother up there in Idaho, talking about that black and white relations were at their best in the antebellum South during slavery.
Yeah, that's what he said.
And
that's what he said.
Look, I got so much love for Dr. Mason for writing the book that he wrote, even taking the stand that he stood.
Oh yeah.
That's right.
I'm pretty sure that people have drawn back from inviting him out to certain venues. But hey,
oh sure,
he can sleep at night. And I go to sleep at night too,
right?
By standing on God's truth. I'm gonna do like Martin Luther King said, and be that prophetic voice for the country. And to hold this country to the ideals that it said that it proclaims.
Right. On that point too. So I was in shout out to Isaiah Robertson. I was at his church back in it was like September, I think it was, for the Truth Summit, and we had this panel discussion where we were talking about, like, why is the Black church important? And one of the things that we said is exactly what you're talking about, MJ. You're just like, we're really standing on the shoulders of giants, in that I believe that God has worked through the gospel in the Black community such that he's in a way fashioned us to have a sort of Nathan ministry. I'm saying, that's what I call it. So, when you think about the prophet, when we think about, King David, he had, messed up with Bathsheba, had Uriah killed, so on and so forth. And then boom, Nathan shows up, gives him this parable like, yo, what should you do with this dude who's stolen the sheep? And David's like, yo, we got to go get him. It's a wrap for that cat. I'm saying? He's done. Who is he? And then Nathan's like, you the man, brother. You it. You know what I'm saying? And, in front of, David's whole court, you know what I'm saying? And so I think that's, in a way, I think we see that kind of echoing throughout the African-American church experience here, here in the West, because you can go back as far as, Absalom Jones in like the early 1800s, where while America is talking all this about everybody's created, is endowed by the Creator with certain inalienable rights. I mean, you have the Black church saying like, yo, do you really mean that? Because if so, you need to let my people go down here in the South. And you had people like Absalom Jones, and we can go on to Richard Allen, and we can go on to David Walker, and a number of other people who all across the board were that prophetic voice, really holding America accountable. And to be fair, now this is where some people are going to get mad at me on the other side, is that one thing that we have to appreciate about America is that by God's grace, there is enough of his of the biblical worldview woven throughout our society, such that those abolitionists could gain traction in the public square. And so we had to thank God for that. I don't credit man for that. You know what I'm saying? I give credit, to God for that. And, our forefathers really took hold of that, and were able to bring about just a powerful freedom movement. Looking at our history, it's just crazy the amount of progress that we've made just in a short amount of time. You know what I mean? And so, but again, I owe that all to God, and I'm not going to detract from that by making, America something, by thinking more highly of America than we ought to think. Yeah. So, forget pride, forget, undue, esteem. You know what I'm saying? We need to evaluate things as they are, look at them through the lens of the gospel, and go from there. Yeah.
Speaking of idolatry, it's like one of the responses I got from the video is like, how dare you speak about Candace? She's the light of the world. I'm like, the light of the world?
Yeah. Wow. the light of the world? Really? Wow.
I told y'all.
Wow.
Would you say lie to the world?
No, not lie. Light.
I told y'all I was drawn to go over to Adam Coleman's comment.
Oh, man.
Candace for president. Candace for president. Burns my biscuits because she narrates history in a way that I think that is either she's not fully informed, so she shouldn't be speaking, or she's misleading. She's intentionally misleading people. I don't think there's a whole lot of room for much in the middle. I mean, like all you have to do is go back and look at Abraham Lincoln's comments. The guy who emancipated Africans. Go back and look at his comments. He didn't think that we were equal to whites.
Right. That's right.
He wanted to legalize marriage. He didn't want voting. He was part of the group that brokered the purchase of Liberia so that they could try to ship all of the slaves back.
Yeah, that's right.
He was more about patriotism. He was more about preservation of the union of the states of the United States than he was about true equality and freedom. Now he did have some reservations. He was squeamish at what he saw in the treatment of African Americans in slavery. He didn't believe that was wrong, but he certainly wasn't an abolitionist in the sense of equality. So I think that it's ingenuous for her to argue that the Republicans were the party that freed the blacks. Because there's 100 years after that 1865 abolition. There's 100 years, 1965 to civil rights, and this whole time people are still getting treated terrible and disenfranchised, thrown in prison. So yeah, she frustrates me because she champions a party as if they were the ideal people, or they really genuinely believed in and represented a set of ideas that they just didn't. It's just not true.
Yeah, we just need to be historically honest. I mean, to your point, and I think I want to take it back to the scripture as well. When you look at how the scripture, how Israel handles its heroes, it's very honest. You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody's messes up. Moses was a murderer. You got Jephthah, who was a important judge. He makes it into the Bible, but then he sacrifices his daughter. However you want to interpret that. You got, of course, like I mentioned, David. I mean, he's a man after God's own heart, and then he's here messing up with Uriah. I mean, the way they treated their heroes and their the important figures in their history, they didn't esteem them above reality. I mean, they showed both sides of the game. You know what I'm saying? And I think it's so powerful because then when you see Jesus come along and see the contrast, wait, no, there's nothing that can be said about Jesus. You know what I'm saying? There's no evil to be pointed out. And that's indicative, you know what I'm saying, of his divine nature. He's morally pure. You see what I'm saying? So you can see that contrast because all along the way they were honest about the human predicament and the depravity of man. Whereas in American history, we're constantly making heroes out of people and putting them on these pedestals that aren't real. And I'm like, look, esteem the positive. Like if there's something that's genuinely in line with the biblical truth and God's character and so forth, then fine, esteem that. But where people fall short, to be honest about it, because ultimately we want God to be glorified. I'm saying it's not about Abraham Lincoln. I did a whole a video on 1619 and showed like a parallel between the arrival of Africans here in Hampton, Virginia, in 1619, alongside what happened during the emancipation and kind of how that came about, which to your point was really a pragmatic move. You know what I'm saying? It was his hand was forced given the circumstances and the way that the tide was turning in the war. You know what I'm saying? So we can be honest about that. And see God's hand working in spite of. And that's what we need to be focused on as Christians. You know what I'm saying? All the national stuff, that's secondary, or tertiary even, or whatever. First and foremost, we need to look at things through the lens of the gospel, man, and see what God is doing.
Right.
Amen.
Well, one thing you said, Adam, if I could jump in real quick.
Yeah.
One thing you said, brother, you talked about being honest, right? Having those kinds of honest conversations are extremely uncomfortable, about if you're talking about race, if we're talking about Christianity, and race with Christianity. A lot of times we have this relationship that we have, the old hymn that goes, "Blessed be the tie that binds our heart in Christian love," right? That tie that binds us is Christ. We know this, but then the problem is when we have this idolatry of these great United States of America. There's nothing wrong with that. I love this country. I'm glad I'm here, right? But at the same time, it's a lot of mess behind the scenes. You know what I mean? And if we're gonna be honest and lift up Christ like we're supposed to, then all of us need to stand together in the United Front and say, this is not the way that Christ has called us to be. This country is not a Christian nation in the way that it should be. Let's do this thing right.
Right. There it is.
A lot of people won't. You can't do it.
Yeah,
that's
right. Kind of piggybacking off of what Adam was talking about. A lot of this, like when you study history, you realize that a lot of this stuff happened at the same time that the Renaissance is happening. The Enlightenment is happening. So what you're getting is, like, you don't think about that. The Geneva Convention, where the world comes together and basically makes it illegal for you to go off and conquer another nation and pillage that nation or subjugate that nation. This is happening at the same time that around the same time as the abolition of slavery in Europe, and prior to, because it took another like 60 years for it to happen over here in the United States, because it was their economy. So it was a big struggle from the south to the north. But what we're getting at is this romanticism. Ultimately, what is it eventually trickled into romanticism, and I think in our day it's hyper romanticism. We don't want to hear anything negative about our heroes. We only want to hear the positive about them. And you, a hater, if you say something negative about them, and it's like, no, we want to have balance. As all of us were saying, hey, we want to honor Christ, and honoring Christ is just like a TI is tis, telling the truth. That don't mean we hate a person. I'm grateful. For better or for worse, the Emancipation Proclamation ultimately led to genuine, true freedom and participation in the United States. So it is something that we should recognize. We just shouldn't recognize it absent from its context and everything else that was a part of it. And the reality of that was he wanted to win a war. He wanted to maintain. He wanted to be patriotic. He wanted to maintain the unity of the Union. And he actually said with his own mouth, if I didn't have to, I wouldn't do it. But we need to win this war. So that's what I would do. So we shouldn't ignore that.
Right. And the fact of the matter is, historically, the thing of it is, this was interesting, right? And let's just keep it 100. The voice of dissent, the voice of disagreement has always been valuable in American history. You don't have the development of America at its foundation. I'm talking about, like, going back to the Declaration of Independence. You don't have that without an appreciation for disagreement. You know what I'm saying? And so that's not anything new. So when I come along and say, hey, look, there's something here that's awry. I'm saying, like, we shouldn't have this dichotomy between either you love America or you hate it. I'm saying either you love America and you just say nothing but good about it, or if you say something negative, oh well, you just anti-American, you just hate it. Historically that's never been the case. I'm saying it's always been the people who care most about the well-being of those in America who are willing to stand up and say, look, we messing up. I'm saying America is messing up. That's always been bad in our history. The problem comes in is when somebody who looks like me, or is voicing certain grievances, is putting things on the table. That's when all of a sudden, oh no, we gotta, we can't talk about slavery. You can celebrate the 4th of July, but if I bring up something from the same era, all of a sudden I'm the bad guy. Come on, man. You can't have it both ways. You say if you're gonna prop up your self-esteem on this nation's exploits and heritage or whatever, then you have to take the good with the bad. I'm just saying don't do that. I'm saying prop yourself up on Christ and who God made you, and then let that be what it is. So you don't have to fall victim to that double-edged sword.
Yep, and it's just what brother Chris said earlier about this romanticizing of America. Look, we don't even let folks in the conscious community romanticize Africa. Okay, and so many people that watch our channels, oh, they love that. They clap in their hands. They love that. But we got to keep that same energy. We got to be consistent.
Right.
So it's just like I tell people, every human being is sinful.
Yep.
All of us are. All of us are. And it won't be perfect till Jesus come back. Simple as that.
Right. And if you go past the history of America, if you go all the way back to what we now call the ancient Near East and the birth of civilization, right? And a lot of people claim that, it was darker skinned people who created the writing systems, the first government and the first, which is all well and good, right? But that's a double-edged sword too, right? Because, all right, so you created writing, you also created the first way to manipulate people with writing.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
Bronze Age, we made these weapons. Why? Because you want to attack those other guys. So you're the first in warfare too, right? You can't just be first in the good stuff. You're also first in the bad stuff too.
Right.
So. But Jay Dill here has a barrage of questions for all of us.
Hey, can I just say something real quick?
Yes, sir.
Just to kind of end out this. I know we don't want to, monopolize, this on this one portion, but I just want to, take it back to the Apostle Paul. You know what I'm saying? The Apostle Paul was a guy. I mean, Lord knows. I mean, he was an Israelite. You know what I'm saying? He was like the Michael Jordan of Israelites. I mean, trained by Gamaliel. He's of the tribe of Benjamin. I mean, this dude, you can't get more Hebrew than he was. You know what I'm saying? And obviously, the Israelites are covenant people. You know what I'm saying? They were a people that were chosen out by God. They were selected and ordained for a particular purpose to bring about the Messiah and all those kind of things. And even he came to say that, with all that heritage, he counted all of that as dung to attain Christ. Dung. You see what I'm saying?
I mean, that's a nice way to translate that. That's not an actual translation of that word.
That's the PG.
He said that he basically like, that's some bull, But seriously, so here's my thing is, okay, now if Paul can take that stance with respect to a nation that God called out, and we have in God's revealed word that he called this nation out for his purpose, you know what I'm saying? There's no speculation about it. There's no theologizing one's history about it. We know that God called Israel out for his purpose.
They received the oracles of God.
They received it. And if he can say, I count all those things as dung that I might attain Christ, then how much more should we be with these man-made nations, whether it be America or anything else?
That's a great
saying. How much more should we count these things as dung to make sure that we are in proper alignment with God's word, who he created us to be, and how he created us to function in the world?
That's great. That's really good. So my man Jay Dill. So Coleman, well, he left this, but anybody could take this. How do you witness to a hurt person who used to be in the faith? Let's start with that question first. That's for anybody.
Oh, is that me or?
Oh, Coleman, no, you're still here. I'm thinking CMB. Yeah, Coleman, that's for you. How do you witness to a hurt person who used to be in the faith?
Well, you know what, man? One thing now, here's the thing. So, like, y'all are catching Adam Coleman. This is the calm down version. You know what I'm saying? I used to be way more combative than this right here. You know what I'm saying? Like, your God had to kind of, to
according to your comment section, you're not that calm, bro.
Well, apparently not. You know what I mean? Like, see, I'm laughing and joking now. Like, the old Adam was like, it's wartime. You're saying, well, it's time to get it in. But now I'm a lot more chill. And one thing I've learned to do is to be a better listener, you know what I'm saying, than a talker. You know what I'm saying? I mean, and the Bible talks about that. We need to, listen above more so than we speak. I know I'm botching that verse, but we have to understand, like, what is it? Like, what kind of offense? You know what I'm saying? Because he says a hurt person. So what kind of offense led to this person, supposedly walking away from the faith? We want to hear them out. And then, and to be honest with you, I think that's going to be the most important step, because that's going to dictate where you go next. And so once I hear, where this person is coming from and what kind of hurt we're dealing with, then that's going to dictate, where I go in the scriptures for the remedy. So if you're talking about a hurt person who was hurt by a life situation, the death of a family member or something like that, then I'm going to go into the scriptures, where it talks about our eternal hope and how, we have this eternal weight of glory and how to kind of, grieve and how God is nigh to us in our grief. That's something I can speak about personally. I lost my dad a couple years ago, so I probably would speak on that. But if you're talking about a situation where maybe there was a relational hurt, where say somebody in the church, did something to this person, and they kind of push them away, then I'm going to handle it a totally different route. You see what I'm saying? I'm not going to go to the same, so I believe that the word is going to have something to say about it, but I'm going to first listen and then allow that to kind of guide me in which direction I'm going to go in the scriptures to, address that particular hurt that person's dealing with.
Cool. And for me, he says, how do you witness to a skeptic theist? Well, I will start off by saying that I think it's healthy to have a certain amount of skepticism when it comes to your belief system. I think everyone here has had their bouts of doubts or insecurities about the faith they profess. Mm-hmm. But the difference between the people on this panel and others is that we pursued to answer those doubts, and that's the thing I would encourage that particular theist. It's like, well, he's a theist, so he believes in some kind of force, right? So he's not totally, foreign to the idea of there being a quote unquote higher power. So that's a good thing. But I would say that it's good to be skeptical. I think you should always keep some of that in you, because there's always new stuff to learn. There's always, not only new stuff, but also you could also learn and have a deeper conviction what you already do know as well, right? And whatever they're skeptical about, then we could talk about it. If I have any resources, or if I have the answer, I will help them. If I do not, I'll probably holler at these guys in this panel, so that would be my answer to that. So MJ, how do you witness to the youth?
Yeah, well, that can seem tough because a lot of times I spent a couple of years as a youth pastor, and sometimes I felt like I was having I had just got into apologetics, so I immediately wanted to begin to share all this stuff that I was learning with the youth, but I had to find a way to hold their attention while addressing their needs. And some of their needs may have ranged from bullying to two females maybe not liking each other. So I had to learn how to present the whole Christian worldview as, hey, we are all created in the image of God, and things like that, and start from there. So I think it does require a little bit of creativity due to the fact that you have to try to get down on their level. It's not hard to do, but it does take a little bit of work. But the joy of it is, and here's the joy. The joy should motivate you into doing a good job about it, because these are the next doctors. These are the next lawyers. This youth, they're getting ready to go off to college. We look at the success of Dr. Eric Mason's church, and his church is full of millennials. But young people are a pleasure to be around. They are extremely. They'll keep you alive longer, man, and they'll keep you going. So you can have fun with them, and the issues that you can address together are just wonderful. So yeah, it requires some creativity. You might have to ask some people how they do it. I mean, I was talking to a brother on vocab show in between. We were having some technical issues, so I got a chance to ask him, how does he incorporate apologetics? You have to work hard to keep their attention, but what I can say is worth it. It's so worth it, because you're getting ready to send these guys off to college, and you want to have them prepared. So, and to wrap it up, I have a nephew that I'm 15 years older than. He's 18 years old. It seems like he's not listening, or it seemed like he wasn't listening when we was having all them talks, but they're listening. They're listening.
Man.
You just got to remember that.
Can I add to that?
Sure.
And MJ, because I've got like 15, almost 20 years experience, and so this is a subject that's real close to my heart. And one of the things that for first of all, let me explain my context. My context is middle class suburban kids, so kids that are privileged. So that's just a paradigm that I just so happen to work in, right? But one, don't be too condescending. If the content that you share with them is too shallow, then they'll feel just like a lot of adults do. A lot of adults don't read their Bible because they don't get much out of it. So if they're not getting much out of it, they say, what's the point of it? It's almost like it's a waste of time. So I try to make sure that we're always delivering to them engaging information that is challenging to them, and not just giving them the basics and telling them the same stories that they didn't heard a million times. That's one. Two, I talk about the sin that's in my own life. I talk about that, like if I go to Panera Bread and some girl got some tights on and I gotta focus to look another way. I talk, but it's like that's real.
Right?
Yeah. You gotta keep it real.
I sit there and constantly carry myself as if I don't struggle and battle sin myself, and then they feel like I don't have anything in common with them. Or I can just keep it real and tell them the truth. Hey, look, man, we all facing the same challenges. There is no sin there's no temptation such as that is what is common to men. We all face a lot of the same issues. So let's just be real about it, rather than sitting there, me trying to act like I'm holier than thou just so I can get you to follow me when you're not going to want to follow me because you don't think that we on the same battlefield. So I keep it real about sin. We transparent. We talk about it. We get grimy. I started the culture by starting to talk about my own sin, and that opened the door for them to start talking about their sins. If they got a battle with pornography with their cell phone, they started talking about that stuff, because guess what? I was honest with them, so they started to become honest with me. So I think that not condescending information, not being too shallow with the content that you're sharing with them. I do think it's important to add apologetics, because that's the world that we live in. Right. Way too many of my kids early on go off to college and apostatize, from some nonsense that you can go on YouTube and get an answer to, that's got a million videos of, but they don't know. And by that time, they're disenchanted. They've maybe started to have sex or struggle with some sin, and the lure of that sin is more appealing to them at the time than that commitment to Christ. So yes, keep it real, talk about sin, keep the content meaningful and challenging. So those are some things that I found, and over the last 10 years, it's been so much more encouraging and fruitful, because now I get more kids that are going off to college and coming back and talking about stories of them sharing their faith and them challenging other people to maintain their faith and walk in Christianity, versus them just apostatizing and walking away from their faith.
Hey, can I ask a question about that? Something you said I thought was kind of interesting. Like you were talking about, if I understood it correctly, like just basically like not dumbing it down, for the youth, so to speak, And I've through apologetics, I've been dealing with more youth than I have been, at least fairly recently. And so I was wondering, like, when I think about my own experience, I grew up in church, and I think that my experience, while I think there were some valuable experiences, I think that I certainly wasn't getting no apologetics. That's for sure. I definitely wasn't getting the level of theology that I probably needed, or else I probably would have made it through college, maybe easier than I had. But my point is, do you think that sometimes we can fall into the trap of giving the kids what we were given, rather than really I guess kind of engaging them where they are? Because like I've experienced like teens who are way smarter than I was at that age. You know what I'm saying? And so I would be doing them a disservice if I handled them in the way that, in terms of what I receive. Like, does that make sense? Or
no, it does.
Yeah.
I gotta say, like, we often talk about tradition like it's truth. We don't rightly acknowledge that I participate within a tradition of Christianity. There's Calvinists, there's non-Calvinists, there's young earth, there's old earth. These are traditions, but many people talk about their traditions like it's truth. So what I learned is like, hey, I talk a lot about tradition, and I point out this is our tradition. This is what Christianity is. It's the death, burial, it's the resurrection, it's the deity of Jesus Christ. It is, this is what Christianity is. This is what our tradition is. So I talk a lot more about tradition, and then again, so I'm trying to get away from simply doing exactly what you were asking about. Just teaching them what I was taught in the same way that I was taught, because I've come to the conclusion that doing that is hurt is doing more harm than good. So
yeah, that's good, man. That's good.
That's good.
Tradition and truth. And then again, we live in a world where apologetics is extremely beneficial. If a kid goes off to college and they have been inoculated by knowing the cosmological argument, they've been inoculated because they know the teleological argument, the moral argument, and they're not going off. If they know something about the reliability of the Bible, instead of just going off and being completely blindsided, you know.
Yeah, it's real facts. Yeah,
benefit.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
That's dope. That's dope.
SOC, you have a question here. How do you witness to today's Jews?
That's a pretty good question. Good thing I was paying attention. 2 Corinthians chapter 3, verses 12 all the way down, but I'll just read a couple of verses and I'll explain why I'm going here. Therefore, since we have such hope, we use great boldness of speech. Unlike Moses, who put a veil over his face so that the children of Israel could not look steadily at the end of what was passing away. But their minds were blinded. For until this day, the same veil remains unlifted in the reading of the Old Testament, because the veil is taken away in Christ. But even to this day, when Moses is read, a veil lies on their hearts. Nevertheless, when one turns to the Lord, the veil is taken away. So what I love about that scripture is it puts you in the right perspective. Number one, you're not above the person you're speaking to. Okay. You're not better than them. The only reason that you're able to see is because you're in Christ. And because you're in Christ, you have a responsibility to be kind, gentle, and respectful to the individuals that you're talking to. And it's not just to Jews, it's to every person of humanity, it's everybody. You show that same respect. But specifically, since we're dealing with Jews and since I come from a background of Hebrew Israelism, what I would do is ask them, what do they believe about the law? Where do they attain their righteousness? And how can they be forgiven for sin? The reason I do that is because there's one or two things are going to happen. Either they're going to pause, which is what I want, because I want them to think, or they're going to go to the law and start saying, well, we have to do A, B, C, D, E, and F. And so I always ask them, well, how do you know you've done enough? How do you know you've done enough to be saved? How do you know you worked out that sin? Another scripture I like using is in Daniel. And it's actually when, Nebuchadnezzar's grandson is basically shown the hand of God writing on the wall. And he says, you have been found in the balance, you have been found wanting in the scales. And so I always bring the example of, I want you to imagine your sin like a rock. And every time you sin, you drop a rock on one side of the scale. And every time you do good, you put a feather on the other side. Can you imagine how many feathers it would take for them to outweigh their rocks? It is impossible for them to attain salvation by their works. And that's why it blocks them from seeing the grace of Christ, which is why Christ is our rest. So I would try my very best in love and understanding that not everybody who's a Jew or a quote unquote law keeper is trying to keep the law because they think that they're better or they're just trying to assert themselves. A lot of people are really trying to please God. They've just been given a false doctrine. And I think if we take the time to respect them as human beings and say, listen, I know that you don't have any evil intentions. The reason I can say that is because of my experience, because I realized that even when I was a Hebrew Israelite, I wasn't keeping the law because I thought I was better than I just really wanted to please God. That was my idea. And if somebody had taken the time to kind of walk me through the scriptures and say, listen, it is impossible for you to attain perfection through the law, but there is a way to be saved and to always please God. And that's to put our faith in Christ. When we understand that Christ is in us and we are made righteous, then God is not seeing us through the lens of, Christ is kind of in front of you and hiding you. No, he's in you. And you are righteous. You are made righteous. You are in the image of God. You are now a light bearer, right? You are sitting on top of a hill, sharing the gospel, being a light to the world. It is no longer Israel, but now it is his children. Those who are in Christ become the light of the world to share the gospel. So that's kind of the direction I would go. Of course, there's a lot of leeway, and depending on the ultra-orthodox, or the Hebrew Israelites, Hebrew Roots movement, there's a lot of nuances. But I think if we just take the time to just say, you know what, Christ saved me, I want them to have that same gift, and I'm going to be patient with them and show them that same love that God gave to me.
Wow, that was amazing.
Beautiful.
That was yeah.
Awesome. That's the gospel, bro.
Mr. Dr. Detroit, how do you witness to a lot of new ages in your hometown?
Well, unfortunately, living in the burbs, don't come across a lot of them. I come across more of them online, like in that woke group, which I'm in. And what I try to do is I try to be patient. My approach is to be patient, pick one person and try to engage that one person, work hard not to get frustrated and be rude to that person, to try to be friendly and try to develop a rapport so that I can have more meaningful interactions with them. It's slow. It's like pulling teeth. It's frustrating because sometimes they say stuff and you just like, that's just the dumbest thing I've ever heard. But I think I'm just trying a different approach because I see a lot of other people trying other approaches and nobody seems to be making a whole lot of progress.
Wow, crazy. So over here in New York, it is now 12:04 a.m. And yeah, it's late.
I mean, I just got here, man. We gotta go at least like another 2 hours.
Listen,
Man.
super late.
Up, man.
Listen, super late. Calm down. So, but before we go, though, I definitely want you guys to talk about your future endeavors, where we're going to see you, future Zoom meetings, YouTube, Facebook Lives, since nobody's going outside their homes. So let's start with Mr. Jackson. What's on your itinerary, sir?
Well, I'm supposed to be chopping it up with Brother Coleman this upcoming Thursday.
You gotta be careful. You're gonna lose subscribers having that dude there, bro. He's radical.
I'm a cancer, man. You don't want to do it, bro.
You know me. I'm crazy anyways. So
That's
it's
true.
all good.
That's
it's
true.
all good. But yeah, we're gonna be chopping it up, talking about Mr. Browder again. We're gonna be talking,
here we go.
Oh, my bad, Dr. Browder.
Is he a doctor for real?
That's what they call him. But they call everybody.
I really don't know.
Hey, they call everybody a doctor in the conscious community. And to Jabari's credit, he has not started to call himself a doctor yet. He's a historian.
That's fair.
But I give him credit for that. But everybody over there is a doctor. So we're gonna be addressing Dr. Browder, and we might talk a little bit about Adam Coleman's conversation with David Banner, and
That's what's up.
We'll give y'all the behind the scenes view of it. Yeah. Hey, shout out to Theosis Redneck. I hope I'm not saying that wrong. Theosis Redneck, man. Adam Cole was one of my favorite people on the planet. I appreciate. I mean, that's what it says.
That's what it says.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I want to make sure I'm saying it right, but and that's cool. I mean, but yeah, he said I'm one of his favorite people on the planet. I appreciate that, man. Thank you.
Yeah, he didn't see the video yet. That's what he's saying.
You're right.
He doesn't know his true ID.
Oh, there you go. I said it right. Okay, cool. I just want to make sure. Yeah. There you go. I appreciate that, bro.
Let's open your mouth, SOC. What's going on with you, man?
Oh, you're funny. Tomorrow I'm going to be hosting a live study, a little light-hearted Bible study on courage. It's going to tie into the following week after that into faith. And is our faith really blind? It's something that happens a lot when you're reading the chats. You guys just have blind faith. Faith is belief without evidence, so forth and so on. So the first part, I guess, is it didn't happen this way until I kind of woke up and started reading the Word with my wife. And after reading Hebrews 11, I was like, I think this is a good topic to talk about. So tomorrow I'm just going to be talking about courage. That's going to tie into Hebrews chapter 11 and faith. Is faith blind? And the following week, still promoting the book, of course. And
what book is that, sir? Stuff. What book is that?
Judaizer, a commentary on the book of Galatians. It's an easy to understand commentary.
Copy in your hand, waiting to show.
I mean, I can go grab one. All right, give me a second.
All right, yeah. Let's go, man. And while he's getting his book, Apologists in Detroit, what can we expect from you in the future, sir?
I still got a couple of installments left to do. He's back. I'll let him finish first.
Okay. There it is. Ta-da.
There it is. Ta-da. So it's a commentary on the book of Galatians. It's made to be easy to understand. It is all about just walking through the gospel as Paul dictated it to the Galatians through all 6 chapters, every single verse explained in detail. and make it easy to understand for anybody to pick
I
up
heard
that
you got to
book.
deal with the Jordan brand, so there's going to be actual like Galatian Jordans coming out. That's dope, man.
I wish. Yeah, that'd be kind of cool, right? But no Jordan brand, no.
You call those G4s, like Galatian. All right, Mr. Apologist in Detroit, what can we expect from you, sir?
I got a couple of videos left for the contextual problem of evil. That next one will be on human sacrifice. So I'll be addressing the Jephthah situation from Judges and with Abraham and Isaac. So that'll be my next video that I do. I'm going to be working on that project that I was asking you about earlier today. I want to plot a narrative and a timeline of the history of racism in America, and then the history of racism within the church, and then offer some commentary and advice on how we, the church, can move forward and be more productive. So be working on that, and then I'm still trying to finish this blog, my first blog post on metacognition. So.
Nice. And who are you going to offend next, Super Late?
No, man. Yeah. Apparently, I'm offending you, man. That's like the fourth time you mentioned me being super late, man. So I apologize.
The name?
Right, I know. But yeah, man, shoot, I'm gonna keep a constant, funnel of different guests coming on my show. I got MJ Jackson coming up. You mentioned that Thursday. I got a couple other guys in the works. Hey, I'm reaching out to my man Chris Samuel and my man Ortiz right here. I'm trying to get y'all on as well, man. As a matter of fact, Samuel, man, I've been catching up with the the contextualized problem of evil with your joint, man, and it's just dope, man. I love what you're doing, and I'm a philosophy guy. So, that's my thing anyway, you know what I'm saying? So, definitely I want to have you guys on. But yeah, so I got MJ Jackson coming on. I'm actually working on a couple blogs myself for Free Thinking Ministries, particularly in regard to a version of the argument for reason that I've recently been tinkering with. So I'm kind of fine tuning it this weekend, and hopefully I can have an article written within the next week or so. So I'm doing that. I'm also actually, interestingly enough, Ortiz mentioned the issue of blind faith. I'm taking a philosophical approach to addressing those kind of arguments, particularly in reference to enslaved persons and their experiences, receiving the gospel. So I'm going to be dealing with that from a philosophical standpoint, showing how they were. I'm throwing a big word, epistemologically. They were epistemologically justified and warranted.
Costs like $20 that word right there. Yeah, $20 word.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm working on that, and hopefully I can finish that. That'll probably take a couple more weeks, but those are like my two main projects, and then I've got a number of guests that they're waiting in the wings as well. So just trying to stay active, man, and I'm behind the scenes. Y'all pray for a brother because I'm working on a book. So definitely be praying for a brother on that. It's been a long time coming, so I'm really trying to take advantage of the Corona era, you know what I'm saying, and really nail this book, man. So yeah,
cool.
Hey, Adam,
That's
I threw
cool.
you a bone, man.
Who's that?
I said I threw you a bone on my last episode.
Oh yeah, I saw that and I appreciate it. Yeah, I got you. You know what I'm saying?
So I'm just gonna tell Alfredo.
Yeah,
Alfredo. So Anthony Browder. Some of his popular books are just old columns that he wrote for a newspaper.
Okay.
And he put each of them into a book format, and they're really easy to read, a few paragraphs per page or whatever. But like I said, I said it would be cool, and I'm not trying to bite on Anthony Browder, but it was a good idea. I said it would be cool if Adam could take all of those articles that he wrote for Free Thinking Ministries, because they're very apologetic in nature, but they also address cultural issues as well. I said it would be, and I wouldn't mind throwing some money toward the project, Adam. So I'm I'll be first to contribute if you ever decided to go with it.
I appreciate it. Yeah,
it would be cool if he could put all those articles into a book, or if there's enough to make a booklet or something. It'll be pretty cool to get that out there.
You know what? Actually, if I can throw in like just 2 cents real quick. I mean, I know we got to go, but just as a let me see how I can put it, but like kind of for those who are trying to get into apologetics, it's so easy to, like, when you first get into it, to just like you get like in this smorgasbord buffet mode. We're just consuming everything, you know what I'm saying? But it's always good if you can stop every now and again to kind of systematize what you're learning. I'm saying to kind of make sure you're like kind of putting them all in order in your head. You know what I'm saying? And I said that because that's really why it's been so long for me, like to kind of like get on writing a book, because I've been constantly just consuming stuff. You know, like I've really, finally sat down to take time to kind of put things in order in my head so I could, give it to others, But I think that's a better way to go about it than just consuming. Like, you kind of want to chew on things as you go. Yeah.
Cool. As for me, I'm working on a 3-part series with SOC and CMB on the Sabbath. We're going to have the ex-Judaizer with the ex-Seventh-day Adventist in the same, YouTube series. So I don't know if that's ever been done before. I have a website that's being worked on. So I'm getting that going.
That's dope.
And let me share my screen.
There it is.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah,
May 25th, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, I will be interviewing one of my favorite scholars, Dr. Michael Heiser, and we're going to be talking about the unseen realm of apologetics.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to just really look at just how his work has affected our niche ministry, right? There's a lot of bleeding through when it comes to the quote unquote Anglo apologetics and us. So I want to talk about that, but I also want to talk about how, apologetics, how it reverberates within the unseen realm. There's these talks that we have, when we defend the faith, we understand it from one plane, but there's other activity going on while we're defending the faith that I think we should be made aware of. So I'm definitely looking forward to chopping it up with Mr. Heiser. So,
man, I got a Michael Heiser testimony. I wish I had time to share it, man. But it's a.
All right, go ahead.
No, I mean, it goes to your point. I mean, I would encourage people to watch that episode when you drop it, because I'm telling you right now, man. And I don't know what people's theological slants are or whatever, but one thing I underestimated when I got into doing apologetics was the element of spiritual warfare. You know what I'm saying? But it is real. I've said on my show before, do not sleep on it. You know what I'm saying? It is real for real. And I was going to a conference, the Frequency Conference, I'm supposed to be teaching there. And it was the year that Michael, well, I guess he's been there a couple times now, but he was going to be there. And I ain't gonna lie, man, like, it's like all hell broke loose like that week. It was just crazy. I mean, by the time I got there, I was like, yo, this is wild. You know what I mean? So I ran up on Heiser after he finished speaking. I was like, yo, I got to talk to you about this unseen realm, B. I need some answers. You know what I'm saying? I need some answers, bro.
You were at Frequency last year?
Yeah. No, not the one that just passed. The one before then. The one before that.
Yeah, because I was like, Michael Heiser was there last year. I talked to him for like 2 hours.
Yeah, so he must have been there twice. Okay, yeah, because I was there the year before that. Yeah, but man, look, man, I'm telling you, bro, he was a real gracious guy. He sat down with me and just kind of broke things down. I was like, yo, this is what you're doing. And like at the end of that conversation, I was like, okay. And it really was a turning point for me. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, obviously all praise goes to God, but I mean, he's a very humble brother. I'm excited that you can have him on the show, man. And the stuff that y'all going to get into, I really hope people tune in, because I mean, it's crucial, man. It's crucial.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, he forced me to really look deeper into my own presuppositions, because we all have our biases and filters when we go to the text. And he forced me to really deal with some presuppositions that I had. Because I didn't believe this dude. It's like, yeah, this is crazy. You talking about these giants and nah. In fact, I was reading his stuff to debunk him.
Wow. Okay.
And in the process, I'm like, this guy's right.
Yeah, I don't think you want that smoke, bro.
I remember after reading Realm, I called BK, I called Alfredo, and I'm like, dude, I'm thinking about integrating this into this Sunday school class. What do you think of it?
And I've done it. I've done a lot of my Sunday sermons with a lot of his work. So I slowly kind of snuck it in there. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, man, it's big for me. Pray. He's serious. He's serious. Pray for me. Pray that a lot of people are edified by that, and I'm just blessed that I'm in a community that's embraced me as much as they have. I've been able to talk to a whole bunch of people who are way smarter than me. on a regular basis.
Right.
You know,
Right.
and it's encouraging and humbling. You know, because it's you never want to be the smartest person in the room or the Zoom room or the YouTube live or the you know what I mean.
Sure,
So I thank you guys for just being nice to me. You know, Adam Coleman has definitely given me a few alley-oops. You know what I mean? So SOC, we became fast friends really quickly. Out the blue. I wasn't even expecting that to happen. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
But
but that's what this is all about, man. Because at the end of the day, it's like it's so powerful for me. Because like when I first started doing apologetics, I mean, first of all, there's people that was already doing it before me, so I want to make sure we give respect to the OGs who've been holding it down. You know what I mean? But it's like you've seen. I think anybody who's been around it has seen the growth over at least the last couple of years. It seems, at least in my experience, it seems like to be a sharp spike in people getting interested and getting involved. And then that's opened up opportunities. Like, I mean, obviously, BK, I met you out there in New York. I met Servant of Christ. You know what I'm saying, I met you out there in Georgia. Me and Matt, we connected online, and we vibe. We're gonna meet one day, man. You out there in Texas. It's a little hot out there in Texas. I don't know if we get down there, but
if it wasn't for coronavirus, I was gonna drive to Philly. I was just gonna get on the road.
Yeah, that Rona messing up, man. Yeah, the Rona is messing up. And I met my man Chris out there in Detroit, man. I'm saying holding it down. So I mean, it's just cool to see everybody vibing, man. And I believe God is really with this thing. And so, I mean, to your point, it's been a lot of sharing, and I think that's how we grow. It's not about somebody trying to blow up or be like that dude. Right. That's what I love about this community, man. Is I really feel like we got that synergy going on, man. I think it's dope.
All we got is us, Onyx.
Oh, snap.
CMB.
We all we got. So, look, you know what? You're not super late, Adam Coleman. Titus 2 is super late.
Titus 2 is
she just
late.
Oh, man.
Super late. She's like super with a couple A's and then the H.
You like your family that show up for the fight after school. Like, oh, it's over already. I'm suspended.
Oh man,
she met you.
She's calling me out, man. I'm not gonna lie. I'm like, my memory is not that great. So when I meet people, I'm not good with names, but I am good with faces. So you had to forgive me on that one. I apologize. I wonder, what did we meet Detroit though? I take that back. Yeah, I do remember that.
He's super late and he's super forgetful, Dino.
Yeah, well, that is true. But no, I do remember you in Detroit. If I'm not mistaken, I think it was in Detroit.
And for Nate, trying to figure out if Jordan has the best voice or just it's both. No, Jordan has an amazing voice. No, it's true. Yeah. No, it's facts, man.
The Barry White of apologetics.
Dude, that audio book is going to be lit. Telling you.
He could be working for Smooth Jazz right
now. Right.
All right, I'm gonna mute my mic.
I'm questioning. I don't know if Nate 2D2 really exists, man. I'm not sure, man. He somehow he's on everybody's lives like all the same.
I mean,
time.
he's not real. I mean, he's an R2. He's a robot.
He's omnipresent.
D2.
He's a Russian bot.
He's omnipresent.
Oh man. She said she met you in Detroit.
Okay, cool. See, I was right. All right, I do remember that.
That was a good guess.
But I don't remember.
Oh, that's
Me
true.
And Titus too. Look at that.
That's true.
Look at that.
We had the same one.
That's right.
It wasn't but about 20 people in the room.
Right.
But yet he forgot. You know.
But there was a lot of love there, though. You know, it was a double event, man. I hope we do it again. Actually,
probably like 30. Probably about 30, 35.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Well organized and all that. Yeah, it was good.
At like a historic black church in Detroit too. So.
Yeah. Oh, I mean that's the thing, and I'm telling you, man. Like I go to, I'm sure like more apologize conferences than most people. You know what I'm saying? And and I'm telling you, man, like the stuff that we saw like in Detroit, or I'm thinking about like the Cyber City conference. The presentations there. I mean, like, man, we're not second fiddle to anybody, man. I mean, we got some powerhouses in this community that got something to say, man. I think that we have to really, thank God for that, man. It's dope.
And last time when y'all come to Detroit, y'all make sure y'all hit me up. I take care of my family when they come to Detroit.
I got you.
All right. I'm with it.
Sounds good.
I take you to the food spots and I take you to have some fun.
No doubt.
That sounds good to me. It sounds good to me, man.
We will hold you to that, sir. Once this
Was
run
that
is over,
so the first live conference is going to be in Detroit?
it's going to be in his
All of
house.
us?
Hey, to be honest with you, man, as long as you keep making so that I don't get robbed, I'll take that. You know what I'm saying? Because all I know about Detroit is Royce the 5'9" and Eminem
And Trick
and
Trick.
8 Mile.
And Trick Trick. Right.
Yeah, that's all I know. That's all I know. So
It's on the uprise. It's nice. Downtown is peaceful. They got a lot of fun stuff down there. I love it. I don't know if y'all active or not. I love the fold. It's a sport that was created here in Detroit. You're knocking down bowling pins with a football. So it's awesome.
Wow, never heard of it.
yeah, that sounds hood as possible to me. But I'm with it. I'm with it. That's cool. That's cool.
Ghetto.
You just confirm all my presuppositions about Detroit.
Oh man, that's crazy.
Oh man.
But okay, guys.
Shout out to Tremaine Terrell. He out there too, right?
Yeah, Tremaine, that's my homie right there.
Yeah, he's out there.
He needs to pull up one of these days, man, to the bodega.
Yeah, I'm like, you know what? He be on the Zooms with me. Like once a week or so, I'm like, we all get on Zoom. We'll just kick around some theology and stuff.
Yeah, you never invite me. That's all right though. That's all right.
I'm gonna get on him. I'm gonna like I'm gonna teacher. Come on over here.
All right, gentlemen. Any last words before we go?
Praise the Lord Jesus Christ for his salvation, man.
Amen. I'll second it.
And I thank you guys for being my friends. I appreciate it.
Amen.
Aww.
So with that,
I already told you my wife like you better as an apologist than she likes me. So
that's crazy.
I might have to do something about that.
Yeah, we gotta work that
Just
out.
say just say you're at the end of everything, and you'll be
that's it. That's it.
Oh, you know what's funny though? Because I just realized like this whole time somebody was referring to Ortiz, and I thought they were talking about
me, right?
But I thought they were calling you Joel Ortiz.
Right.
I just realized that Jordan Ortiz. Okay,
Right.
I thought somebody was being funny, in the chat. Talking about Joel Ortiz.
I'm throwing shots at you, bro. You need extra plan for them tires in Detroit.
Oh snap!
Oh,
that's
man.
funny.
Yeah, I never said we had good roads. Winter is hard on roads, man. All that expensive.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh man, it's been great, guys. And as always, this is the BK Apologist signing off. Catch you on the flip side. Peace.